conflict in the Caribbean region. The U.S. has launched a campaign against drug cartels. They struck at ships supposedly belonging to drug traffickers off the coast of Venezuela. Additionally, the U.S. Department of Justice and the State Department have announced a reward of $50 million for information leading to the arrest of the Venezuelan dictator. Maduro is accused of international drug trafficking, widespread corruption, and extremely serious, gross human rights violations. These allegations are not limited to just Venezuela alone. In fact, a new
and what's happening in the region. To better understand the current events and developments taking place in this particular area, be sure to find out more in the following detailed report. In this segment, we will provide you with comprehensive insights and analysis regarding the situation unfolding in the region.
In a letter, Maduro asked the Chinese government to improve the production of radar detection systems by Chinese companies, possibly so that Venezuela could strengthen its capabilities. The documents state that the Minister of Transport is Ramon Celecito. Velázquez also recently coordinated the delivery of military equipment and drones from Iran, planning a visit to that country. He informed the Iranian official that Venezuela would require passive equipment, GPS jammer detection, and almost certainly drones with a range of 1,000 kilometers.
What was the response from these countries? Maduro, it's unclear. The Kremlin also does not comment on the information about this letter.
The documents do not make it clear how China and Iran responded, but Russia remains Maduro's main support. During the week, an Il-76, one of those Russian aircraft that the US sanctioned in 2023 for involvement in arms trading and transporting mercenaries, landed in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, after taking a detour over Africa to avoid northern airspace, according to Flight Radar 24.
The United States has declared war on the drug cartels. Since September, the U.S. has been increasing its military presence in the Caribbean basin. American forces have carried out about a dozen strikes against suspected drug traffickers. Most of these operations have targeted areas right off the coast of Venezuela. In Caracas, they deny any involvement in illegal activities. They condemned the actions of the U.S. military and called it a direct provocation. They accused Washington of organizing sabotage and inciting hostility against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Recently, reports emerged that the U.S. has redeployed a missile destroyer and a large amphibious assault ship to the Caribbean Sea. They are now positioned so they could strike Venezuelan territory. The Wall Street Journal reported that the U.S. military is considering the possibility of such strikes. According to the newspaper, the Trump administration is allowing this in order to reduce drug trafficking and to send a signal to the Venezuelan president that he needs to step down. Donald Trump himself dismissed this information, and the head of the Pentagon did not confirm it either.
Is the administration considering the possibility of striking Venezuela? Thank you
for the question, but we will not disclose any operational details about what may or may not happen.
Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. And it is precisely the real value of oil that is one of the main levers of pressure used by the Trump administration on the Maduro regime, experts are convinced. According to Demin Reger from the Hans Seidel Foundation in Caracas, this conflict represents competition for energy resources, markets, and geopolitical influence in the region. Another significant reason is the role of China. The U.S. has significantly restricted Venezuela's access to the American market, so Caracas sells most of its oil to Beijing at greatly reduced prices. And if Venezuela regains access to the US or EU markets, China may lose these supplies since the resource would then be sold at more favorable prices. At the same time, the Washington Post writes that Moscow could lose many economic advantages if Nicolas Maduro steps down.
The situation shows just how much. Moscow could lose a lot if Maduro, who is in a difficult position, falls from power. And high-profile projects between the two countries continue to be implemented. In particular, factories for the production of Kalashnikov ammunition have been built in Lipna in Venezuela's Aragua state, roughly 20 years after the promise to construct them was made. Moscow also has the right to explore potentially billion-dollar reserves of undeveloped natural gas and oil.
The Washington Post notes that Moscow now has fewer opportunities to help Nicolas Maduro, but some experts are convinced that the standoff between Washington and Caracas could actually play into Putin's hands.
The confrontation between Washington and Caracas could even bring some unexpected benefits to the Russians as it diverts US attention away from Europe. Becoming entangled in the war in Ukraine and seeking closer cooperation with other Latin American partners, Moscow has gradually reduced its interest in Venezuela in recent years. And amid the current crisis, there are no signs of increased support.
A regime change in Venezuela would be a serious blow to Moscow. This could lead to the loss of one ally and a significant weakening of another, Cuba. According to observers, it could become Washington's next success,